Just a quick trigger warning on today's episode. It's got some pretty graphic descriptions of torture, so it's probably not suitable for young ears. Hey, I'm Julian Morgans, and you're listening to Scammerland. So this is episode 4, and over the last 3 eps, we've looked at how online scams are run by people living in modern slavery through Southeast Asia. We're following the stories of 2 people who have been abducted into this system, Catalea and Small Q. And at the end of the last ep, we heard how Small Q has come up with an escape plan. He's stolen a phone from his boss, which he's managed to smuggle back into his dormitory. So now the first thing he needs to do is to connect to the Wi-Fi.
I had crammed the password for that Wi-Fi, even though I was at the dormitories. It was not a long distance. So I was able to log it in. And the good thing, the phone had battery.
Q was able to download WhatsApp, and he immediately contacted his family.
First things first. They had to know which situation I was, passing through. I told them everything. I prayed with my father on phone. And I gave them hope that I'm still alive and one day I'll come back home.
And then his parents contacted the Ugandan government.
But they were unhelpful in the first place because everyone was like, you guys are so far. We don't have access there.
This is a common problem. Myanmar has very few diplomatic ties with the rest of the world, so most governments say there's just nothing they can do. No one is willing to send their diplomats into a chaotic war zone or risk an armed extraction. So Q was told, you're just going to have to wait. And meanwhile, his friends and family continued to contact anyone and everyone they think could help. As the weeks trickled past, Q got into a routine of texting friends and family at night and then charging his phone while he was working during the day.
Amazing. The next days, I used to take this phone inside the office to charge it from there. Then I get back with it off work. But you know where I put it to pass it through those, security guys? Just under my shoe. It was a Jordan 4. It was a big shoe, so I put it inside there.
Okay.
Then I step on it with some clothes inside. Then it wouldn't be damaged, but I was moving so slow. So these guys were like, why are you moving so slow?
Now, Q wasn't really across this, but something was happening in Uganda. His friends and family, they'd failed to arouse much interest in the case from the government, but the country's media had taken up the story. In fact, hundreds of Ugandans had vanished into Myanmar over the last 3 years, so suddenly the story was all over the nightly news. And that's how the people running the scammer farm figured out that one of the Africans must have obtained a phone.
They used to come to our dormitories, search everywhere to look for those phones and everything, because other people were getting more phones each and every day using my trick that I used last time. So they knew we are taking phones.
Oh, really? So
Yeah, they knew we are taking phones.
So you told other people?
Yeah, I told them.
About how to get a phone?
Yeah. And others actually used to get them anyhow, because there were a lot of phones inside there. So they didn't even pass through some punishments.
Through all these raids, they never found Q's phone. He kept it with him in the office, or he managed to hide it. But that still didn't help. The mood was really tense, and his management team kept reiterating just who was in charge.
We own you people. We own your lives. They are saying they are our gods. If you do this, I'm going to take you to the dark room.
The dark room. Also sometimes known as the black room. Every scammer farm has at least one, and they're not called dark rooms because they're actually dark. The name just refers to a mental state that these rooms create.
It's the most bad place on earth. This is a place I stopped thinking. This is a place I felt like I should die.
A place where you stop thinking, where your mind goes dark. These rooms are modern torture chambers, and they're central to the power structure that allows scammer farms to operate. Most of the survivors that I've spoken to while making this series have spent some time in a dark room. And Q found himself in one after he and his friends came up with a plan to storm the fence. They were facing more and more scrutiny as the story of the kidnapped Ugandans ran in the news. But meanwhile, their diplomatic efforts to get released, they seemed to be stalling. So their next plan was an old-school jailbreak.
So me and a few Ugandans, we made a small meeting, and we were like, at night, we're gonna escape and run away, but we don't know even where we're gonna pass. But what we knew after the river is Thailand. And remember, we are near the river, because sometimes we used to access Google and everything to know where we are. So that was the plan.
It was a very loose and pretty desperate plan, and they were going to do it at night after lights out, but they never even got a chance.
So they waited up to night when we are still inside these rooms. And remember, this was the time for us to escape as well. So we just saw these guys coming back with the military, very, very, very angry and aggressive. They put each of us on handcuffs like this.
Okay, with your arms out in front of you.
Yeah, for the female. Then the male, they were putting us on handcuffs like this.
Behind your back.
Yeah,
okay.
So because we used to fight, why are you putting us on handcuffs? What's happening? So me and my team, we felt like our plan was already demolished. Like we couldn't continue with the plan because these guys have now come, put us on handcuffs.
Q doesn't know whether management was tipped off to their escape plan, or if they just got sick of all of the information leaks and the lackluster work performance. Q said that he and the others had been refusing to work to make themselves less valuable as slaves. So it was basically a union strike alongside an escape plot. So it's understandable, if they were under surveillance, why management decided to come down on them heavily.
So they used to ask us, are you willing to work? You go back, you sit on the computer, or are you willing to refuse? These were questions from the military. So like I said, we were fed up of this place. And we was like, whatever comes. If they want to kill us, they're going to kill us. If they want to do anything to us, we are not going back to those computers. We are not scamming people anymore. We want to go back home. So for those who got scared and were like, we're going to continue with the work, we are punished somehow, maybe some, strokes, then taken back to the officers. But me and my team of almost 25 guys, Ugandans, some 2 Kenyans, a girl and his brother, and other 5 Ethiopians. Actually, we was the team that put up that strike during day. So me and my team, almost 30 people, were hanged in that dark room.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Q and his gang enter the dark room. Hey, welcome back. So Q and about 25 other Africans from a range of countries have been refusing to work while plotting an escape. And now they've been asked, will you work or do you want to go into the dark room? And this seems insanely brave to me, but most of them chose the dark room. And the dark room in the Taichung scammer farm is actually open to the sky. It's a strip of land between the back of a building and the compound's outer wall. It's basically like an alleyway with a series of hooks bolted to the walls.
Have you ever gone to a butcher where they keep meat? So they hanged us up on some metal hooks. Imagine on handcuffs, holding your own weight.
Oh, so you're suspended off the ground.
Yeah, man.
Are your feet touching the ground?
Nope. And at a certain point, you use, to try to touch the ground so that you don't feel that pain. But these guys made it intentional so that we don't touch the ground. So we are lifting ourselves up on those hooks. Then we were not allowed to eat or drink for all the time we spent in there. were not allowed to use, washrooms. So each and everything you had to do it there on yourself. Poo and poo. Man, this is so emotional because when I remember this stuff, man, it's like I felt like not even just a slave. I felt like, God, what have I done, to pass in this kind of situation, bro?
Yeah, Q. I'm sorry, man. It's so awful.
The first day, I was like, we can make it. We can make it with my brothers because we are, trying to have a conversation, man. Why are these guys putting us here? Are they gonna kill us? So hours we are moving as we are, trying to communicate. The second day, none of us was able even to speak a word according to the pain.
When Q told me this story, I kept trying to imagine how it'd feel to be hung by your arms for days on end. And I think it'd be the kind of thing that just might be bearable for an hour, but after that, the pain would just become all-consuming. I mean, imagine all of your body weight transferred to your arms and your wrists for days. And yet that wasn't even the worst of it, because Q and his friends, they weren't even allowed to sleep.
These guys were monitoring us. They had those electric sticks, some of them holding guns. When they find you just dozing like this, they're gonna beat you, they're gonna kick you, they're gonna use those electric sticks on you so that I don't actually doze. One of us, the Ugandans, fainted, and the only way to get him back was to put an electric stick on him. So this got us so scared, and we was like, let's fight sleep. But sleep is something you can't fight, my brother. So we failed, and what I was hearing around was noise. People crying for their lives because everyone was now dozing. So they used to put sticks on him like this the second day. We felt like this is the end of it now. We are getting out. But these guys kept us more days inside there. It's called the dark room not because it's dark inside, but it's the place where you lose your brain and your brain goes dark, like you don't think about anything anymore. You lose your mind. You start imagining stuff that's not there. Man, there is a certain point I imagined like I'm in heaven, like I've died now. So I started talking to myself. I was like, God, so this is heaven. This is heaven already. Is this heaven? Why am I feeling pain? Tell me, God, am I in hell or heaven? So at this point, I didn't even recognize that there was someone on the fourth day when I was in the dark room. At a certain point, I also imagined myself moving. Like I saw myself free, but I was actually still in the same place. Then I started hearing my brothers passing through the same situation, talking to themselves. Others were laughing out loud. Others communicating to their loved ones like, Mommy, how are you? Have you ever been in a place like you are having your last moments on earth? So that was like something happening to everyone inside there.
I've never experienced the kind of pain where I've had this out-of-body experience. But somehow it got worse. The man hanging on a hook next to Q was Ethiopian, and Q noticed that this man was kind of wiggling around, trying to get his handcuffs off.
He tried to open these handcuffs to escape. But as he was opening like this, a military guy saw him and told him to stop. But the guy didn't stop, even though the military guy was there. So the military guy started beating him with a stick on the thigh. Then he headed these upper parts, beating him in the chest, telling him to stop. But this guy was like, you guys don't own me. He got them off. But him trying to stand like this, he couldn't even just take a step to run. So this guy, the military guy, just kept on beating him everywhere. he was joined by more military guys. Then the head of that security department in there came and told them to stop, to put him back on the handcuff. Putting him back on the handcuff, the guy was already fed up of this place, very traumatized. Remember, it's the 4th day in there. So he started shouting, just shouting, like making a lot of noise. But at some point, I got to hear some words. He was like, let me out of this place. At least I go say bye-bye to my mom. Then I come back, you guys kill me. That's something that he asked for. And him saying that is something that I also felt that I would want to, to have at least before I die, like to say goodbye to my family, my loved ones. But these guys, it was actually not possible because we're far from home, but it's something that we longed for, maybe for our last hours on earth, because man, we felt so bad. Imagine no anything you have got to eat for 4 days.
Yeah.
He was put back on the handcuffs, but he kept on shouting. Then the general himself, he ordered these guys to keep beating him until he keeps quiet. They started beating him on the head. I saw blood coming out of him. Then he eventually stopped shouting. And it is at this moment that I got to know this guy is not alive anymore. I saw him stopping breathing right just besides me like this, because this side he was the Ethiopian, this side was a Ugandan. So this guy on this side asked me, "What's happening? I can't hear him anymore." Man, it's tears that came out of my eyes, because this guy was already dead. We froze. Anyone who was trying to plan anything, because we also trying to plan to, imagine we are in a military base, but you're trying to plan to, get off those handcuffs and maybe run. But this was like an example to us that you can't do anything inside here.
Eventually, the man's body was removed, but most of the others were too delirious to notice. And in a way, that tragedy of his death was kind of overshadowed by everyone's private pain, the agony in their arms and of hunger and extreme dehydration.
Like I was telling you before, this place is called the dark room, but it's not actually dark. During day, you are hit by the sun directly, because we was on something like a net around us. So handcuffed on those hooks. So during day from 7 to 6, you are hit by the sun on your body. Man, there is a point I saw my bones. We tried to ask for water because we felt so thirsty, but these guys used to bring a pipe with salt water, which we actually got to know this is their urine, because they used to connect it to some pit hole there, and they used to, give us to drink like this. So your testing is when you realize this is urine now. You can't take it anymore. So this is how badly these guys treated us inside that room.
As Q told me a story, I was wondering how this ordeal felt, especially how it would feel to hang from your arms for just so long. And I know it's morbid, but I was curious, so I asked.
I felt so frozen. I couldn't move even just a muscle like this. There's a point when you can't feel the pain anymore. Blood has stopped working and moving in your body. So these guys actually used to bring a baton on us and lift your head like this to see if you are just alive. But when you are still breathing, it's all good. So he goes on another person to monitor and everything like that. So on the 5th day, I don't even remember if it's the 50th day, but counting the days that I saw the sun is when I saw the Chinese bosses now come to this room. Remember, they are the ones that ordered us to be taken there. So now they come to check on us. They move around. They asked, like they asked me before in that room after being, electrified and punished. They asked me, are you now willing to work?
Are you willing to work? What would you say if it was you hanging from a hook for 5 days and nights? Personally, I'd have just said, sure, whatever, get me down. But Q, he's stronger than me.
Only power you had was to say only 2 words. Actually, 1 word among yes or no. They just said yes. And we are taken. So me and my teammates, because I had some guys there, we had, that passion of going back home. So we felt like if we show these people that we are not, cowards, that we can take even any risk of dying inside here. Maybe they can let us go back home. So we are like, no, we're not getting back to those computers. We said no.
You said no.
These guys laughed.
That's wild.
And they didn't actually believe it that we have said no to go back, to that life that we were actually fed up of before even. Because they felt like now these people, even though it's harsh in there, 20 hours a day, whatever and everything, they're going to say yes because this is better than that. But we said no. But truth is that we are almost dying, man. So after our other hours, now being punished badly because every single second you try to doze, these guys finally knew we are going to die in this place. They said, get them off the handcuffs. Opening those handcuffs, I thought I could even stand. But putting down the leg, I just fall down like this. So it's the army now that hold me on this hand and the other guy hold me on this hand to raise me up. Then from the dark room, straight to work.
Oh, man.
I thought these guys are taking us to our containers maybe to rest, maybe to, to bring back our brains and everything. But all I saw was, being taken upstairs in that room. Then they sat me on a computer.
You weren't even allowed a shower, like after 5 days of going to
without anything, man. Smelling very bad. I couldn't even mind about that at that point. All I was feeling is pain. I sat down, tried to pretend that I'm typing so I don't be punished. But this is when I collapsed.
When Q opened his eyes, he was back in his dormitory on his bed. His clothes were still crusty from 5 days of blood, feces, and urine, and his arms ached and he smelled terrible, but he was alive. Just.
They told me, man, we thought you are dead. These military people brought you here from the office. We thought you were dead. I asked them, are we still in this place? They said, yeah, man, we are still here. We are just back from work. And just know you are going to work. These people, we know these people, they're not going to leave you to rest. So use this time to rest. But man, I was smelling bad and everything, so I had to, wake up and clean myself. But I couldn't move, so these guys helped me, and I big up on them wherever they were, man. Yeah, my family now, actually, we are still, looking out to each other, checking on ourselves to see if each other is taking care of themselves. So that's how the dark room was. I was able, to bring my muscles back because I tried to make some exercises out when I got out. Yeah, finally I started walking again and got to work afterwards.
Q, can I ask, do your arms still give you any problems? Like, have your muscles returned to their full functionality?
I would say that this small finger right here still pains me because them putting the handcuffs on this hand like this and on the other hand like this, blood stopped moving. And remember, I tried
Especially to your
also
little fingers.
yeah. So and remember, I was trying to to pull. You actually don't try, but it pulls yourself. Like you lose that power. So they are still paining me. That's the right thing. I actually had some bruises around here because those handcuffs cut me very bad here. Actually, blood to come out as well. But I got some medication, so I'm good right now.
You're lucky that you've got the use of your arm still. I would have thought that 5 days being hung like that off your arms, I would have thought that was just irreversible damage.
We made massage like ourselves. We used to help each other, rubbing their hands like this, the African way, so that we can, use them again.
It's sort of like the worst place in the whole world, but these little glimmers of solidarity, of like human care, like the care that you guys showed each other, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I remember when we got out, actually, on my food like that, I was given a small rice after in a polythene bag. I saw some guy, still starving. And, I was feeling pain here in the neck to take that rice. So all I had to do was to give it to the other guy. So that's how we used to treat each other there. I come from a place where we don't care about how others treat us, but we care more about how we treat others. That's something that I've been taught from my childhood by my father and the people where I come from.
It probably kept you alive. The fact that you were looking after each other may have contributed to the fact that you got out alive.
That's right.
God. Okay, so then did they make you go and you had to get back to work?
This is the moment when we now try to look for plan B. Man, we never gave up on this. So we're like, we need to get communication to let people back home that we are in this situation, or else we're gonna die. Because if we try any other attempt of escaping, we're gonna be killed. We've just tested these guys' hunger and everything. So let's try to figure out how we're gonna get out of this place in another way.
We're going to take another ad break here, but when we come back, we're going to look at how Q's message finally made its way to someone who could help. Welcome back. So as you'll remember, Q and his friends spent 5 days and nights in the dark room. But during this time, his SOS message had finally made its way to someone who could help. A Ugandan woman named Betty Begombi. And Betty's kind of a big deal. For a while, she was the senior director of fragility, conflict, and violence at the World Bank. And now, these days, she's the High Commissioner of Uganda to Malaysia. And she contacted Q on WhatsApp.
And she was like, you guys, I know about your stories. I'm happy to hear from you that you guys are all alive. So I was able to send a location using WhatsApp with my team. I wouldn't say that I did this all alone. She was able, to access contact inside that military camp and communicated to the guy called Mr. X. Now this was like the biggest boss who took over this, was running and controlling this camp at the mountain. The conversation between them, it was, I need my kids. I'm the ambassador of Uganda in Malaysia. I just got to know that you have almost 50 Ugandans in that camp. As the government of Uganda, we need those people to be rescued. We need those people freed. But the reply from this guy was, it's okay, we're going to give you these people, but we're going to need $10,000 each of them to be free.
So the Chinese owners of the scammer farm wanted a ransom for each slave that they let go. But Uganda is a developing nation, so asking an average family to fork out $10,000 makes about as much sense as asking for $1 billion. So no one could pay, and the weeks dragged on. We've moved on here, and we're now in the early months of 2024, and the compound management is still trying to figure out who has the phone. And eventually, they tried a new technique. They decided to split up the group of Africans and sell them off to different farms around Myanmar.
They transferred us from the mountain after getting to know that we have accessed phones and we are now communicating back home, to take us to a place where we couldn't, access anything.
Isolation was bad, but getting booted out of Taichung was pretty scary because they thoroughly searched everyone as they left. But again, Q was able to smuggle out his phone.
They checked us on the gate, they put bags everywhere like this, they removed everything, but I still survived with my phone.
How did you manage to hold on to it that long?
I had a backpack. Then inside there is a soft sponge where I put it in the back. So when you touch that sponge, you just feel like this is a sponge. So they couldn't know that there is a phone.
Q says that his new scammer farm was dilapidated and part of their job was to repair the buildings that had been damaged by war and weather. And he spent a lot of his days scamming too, but the bosses, they were never happy and punishments were arbitrarily dished out.
Now this is 2024. I won't say that I remember the month, but we started working in this place, got used to it, punished like every day, like always. There is a dark room as well there. This time around it was very bad that it had no space. It was actually dark now because it was a room. They put you there for 24 hours, anytime they want, without eating. But other punishments included standing in the sun for almost 20 hours as well. Others are working, so for you they tell you, tomorrow when you come to work, just stand there outside in the sun.
Through all of this, Q kept talking with Betty from the Malaysian embassy, and she kept reaching out to new people and trying new efforts to get the Ugandans released. And she kept saying, just hang on. And Q says that his religious background really helped him through this period.
I used to pray every day. Now this is the side of me personally. Like each and every day I used to pray, I used to read the Bible. Man, I'm so happy that I survived with my Bible in there. I don't know if these guys didn't know what the Bible is, because they used to take a lot of stuffs, like jewelry, phones, mirrors, anything we had like is, good, they used to take it. But my Bible survived. I went with my Bible, it survived. I used to read it every day. I was praying and I was telling to God, if you are the God that got the Israelites from Egypt to the promised land, please get us out of this place. Because we were like now, the Israelites back in the days, being slaves in Egypt, being used and, that labor without payment and everything. So that was my prayer.
But the thing that really helped Q's cause was slacking off at work. In the long run, this made him a less valuable slave, which means that his bosses were less determined to keep him, even if, in the short term, it meant that he was being punished constantly.
You just find yourself being punished. They used to put us on walls, then they make you face the other side, then they stroke you up to when even the stick is not, able to stroke you anymore. I've received that as well.
Q says that his memories from this time are kind of scattered. The punishments and the days in the dark room, they just sort of became background noise. But he does remember the day that his bosses gave him a taser just as a sick kind of punishment, and they made him punish his friends.
You are now the boss, so you have to punish them. This was kind of tricky as well. But we couldn't punish our brothers and sisters. So this was like, man, I can't do that. They were just playing with our minds all along, you understand?
The people running this compound, they were actually Taiwanese, which is interesting because, as we're going to learn later in the series, it was the Taiwanese who largely pioneered this business model. But from Q's perspective, they were somehow even more chaotic and even more violent than his Chinese bosses.
And these people were even bad than the Chinese. We got to know these people that they are bad because they used to fight themselves right in the office. You see someone standing, then he goes boxes someone like this. What are you doing? Now this is like a supervisor has done something wrong at work.
Wow. It's chaos.
Q saw violence and death almost every day, but he remained resolute, read his Bible, and barely scammed anyone. And around that time, his SOS message made his way from Betty, the Ugandan commissioner, to a man who works in Thailand named Judah Turner. And Judah is kind of a big character in this story. He's an Australian guy, like me, and he'd left his corporate job in Perth to live in Thailand years earlier. And then one day, he just happened to find himself living over the border from Myanmar, watching their very first scammer farms getting built. And since then, Judah and his organisation, Advanced Global Projects, they've managed to rescue around 1,000 scammer farm survivors. In fact, this whole series and its interviews with survivors, it would have never happened without Judah. And Judah just happened to get wind of Q's story.
I remember chatting with him, and it was never about him. It was about everybody else that was with him. It was about rescuing his teammates, which I think is a key in why we pursued the avenue that we did.
On the next episode of Scammerland, we're going to meet Judah and hear how Q's rescue went down. But we're also going to learn about the twisted history behind scammer farms and how people like Judah and Troy, they're actually leading the charge against this industry. That's next week on Scammerland. Thanks for listening, and please follow. If you're enjoying this and you'd like to offer some support, the single easiest thing that you can do is follow the show. Scammerland is produced by Rachel Tuffrey. Editing is by me, Rachel Tuffrey, and Jamie Snyder. It's mixed by Jimmy Saunders, who also did our sound design. Our cover art is by Rich Akers. Our interns are Nina Fussell and Ellie Dickey, and this whole thing has been a Superreal production.
Superreal.